Hi everyone, my name is Edith Lily Perello, and I am doing my presentation on the cognitive effects of the frequent social media use. This is for Dr. Roger Copeland's course, Psychology 5330, Psychology of Learning. And let's get started. So as you can see, the question is, why study social media and cognition? Social media has become an integral part of our daily lives, with millions of people interacting on platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter every day. As you can see, the timeline on the left shows, the types of platforms that exist in their timelines, but also how they offer opportunities for connection and learning, such as research in cognitive psychology suggests that frequent exposure may have significant impacts on how our brain processes information, maintains attention, and regulates memory. According to Reed 2022, cognitive development involves a set of mental processes such as attention, working memory, and executive function, which is essential for learning, problem solving, and decision making. By understanding the cognitive effects of social media, this is important not only for educators and students, but also for parents, professionals, and anyone who interacts regularly with the digital media. Everyday exposure is almost unavoidable, so exploring how these technologies shape our cognitive habits is essential for making informed choices and when we use them. So, how does social media influence the cognition? How does it develop our brain? The main question guiding this presentation is, how does the everyday exposure to social media influence that cognitive development? And to answer this, we first need to focus on the key areas such as attention, the working memory, executive function, and cognitive habits. According to Reed, the working memory is a limited system that helps us hold and manipulate information in our minds, while the executive functions like inhibition, update, and plan allow us to control attention and behavior. Frequent exposure to fast paced content, constant notifications, and multiple platforms may challenge these cognitive symptoms sometimes, but they also encourage rapid task switching rather than sustaining that focus. By examining these research findings, we can better understand how everyday social media uses shapes attention, memory retention, and overall cognitive functioning. What are some of the positive and cognitive effects or those potential benefits of using social media? Despite the concerns, social media use does have some positive cognitive effects when they're used intentionally. For example, social media can improve quick information processing, multitasking, and as users often learn to scan, evaluate, and respond to multiple streams of information simultaneously, it can also provide opportunities for learning, such as accessing educational content, tutorials, or professional tips, which can also support knowledge acquisition and skill development. Social media can also facilitate learning and networking, which allows individuals to have that opportunity to share ideas, collaborate, and problem solve collectively. As Pontes and Griffiths 2023 and Reed 2022 emphasize, when used strategically, social media can serve as a cognitive tool to support the learning and connectivity rather than simply serving as a source of distraction. What are some potential drawbacks or negative effects on cognition for social media? Well, research has showed that there are several potential negative effects that have been identified for the frequent use of social media. According to Reed 2022, He explains that because working memory has limited capacity, content switching between the apps back and forth, notifications, or even having that short form content can overload the attention systems, which make it harder to maintain, update, and process information deeply. This encourages that shallow processing and trains the brain towards that rapid shifting rather than sustaining that focus for an amount of time. Lim and colleagues 2023 found that even brief social media use can impair executive function performances, including that working memory and response inhibition, while reducing activity in the prefrontal brain regions that are responsible for that cognitive control. Pontes and Griff's 2023 highlight that social media promotes continuous partial attention, which can fragment that focus and diminish the brain's capacity for deep learning. Finally, Hutton and colleagues 2024 report that high levels of screen media exposure in children and adolescents are associated with slower neural maturation and can often have changes in cortical thickness, attention problems, suggesting that long-term effects on cognitive development. Taken together, all these findings show that the everyday social media exposure can weaken attention regulation, heighten that distraction, and shape cognitive habits in ways that may undermine learning and goal-directed thinking. As far as my personal experience with social media, I am a mother of three, a wife of almost 18 years, a devoted Catholic, a full-time college student, and a full-time special education teacher. And my personal experience with social media has been a mix of connections and distractions. On one hand, I can say that it helps me stay informed when it comes to the news, educational strategies, parenting tips, and it allows me to maintain relationships with my friends and families, as well as my professional peers. But on the other hand, I've noticed that the social media does often tend to divide my attention, especially when I'm trying to focus on my studying, my projects, assignments, papers, or even lesson planning for work. Cognitively, I feel that it has made me more accustomed to processing information very quickly. I do scan multiple sources. I find myself responding efficiently. However, I do feel that it does challenge my ability to be more engaged in a deeper, uninterrupted way of thinking, which is often necessary for those complex tasks or more difficult reflections that I have to do. So, to give you an example, as a teacher, I follow educational accounts that provide teaching strategies and classroom resources that allow me to quickly gather ideas for, intervention in my lesson planning. And as a college student, I use it for research, obviously, but I also join academic groups and follow pages that are related to my coursework, which can give me access to resources, peer discussions, and articles that support my learning. As a mother and a wife, social media helps me connect with my parenting communities, family, faith-based groups. They offer support, inspiration, and that spiritual encouragement, which helps balance my responsibilities as a family. Overall, I use social media intentionally, balancing its benefits from learning and connection with the need for mental clarity and presence, and that focus in my family and professional life. So, some key takeaways from this presentation and the research. I would say that in conclusion, social media has both positive and negative effects on the cognitive development. As Reed 2022, Pontus, and Griffiths 2023 mention, overuse can weaken that attention, memory, and executive functions, which encourage that shallow processing. Lim et al. 2023 and Hutton et al. 2024 also mentioned that rapid task switching and fragmented focus that can result. At the same time, intentional and balanced use can enhance learning and support information that's processing and provide networking opportunities. By understanding these effects, it is crucial for managing our daily digital habits and use. By being aware of how social media impacts cognition and makes deliberate choices about its use, we can maximize benefits while minimizing that negative consequences for attention memory and executive functioning.